My name's Cole McInturff. I'm a mortgage lender, and I work for Home Savings and Trust Mortgage. We're a local lender based out of Fairfax. You know, referral business. So, I help people purchase their home, and it's just residential mortgages. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
love it. And now, your academic background includes both a bachelor's and master's in education. What inspired your transition from education to the mortgage industry, and how have your teaching skills influenced your approach to mortgage lending?
Yeah, that's a good question. I went to JMU. I played baseball at JMU. If I'm being completely honest, it was very favorable for my schedule.
Yeah.
But granted, I enjoyed it, and at the time I thought that's what I wanted to do. Get into teaching, and it required a lot of patience. To be a teacher, and I did my student teaching at JMU, and I did elementary school teaching. So that required a lot of patience.
Yeah.
But my dad was in the mortgage industry for a long time. So my whole life, I kind of grew up, knowing about the mortgage business. And when I got out of school, he had approached me and said, "Hey, look, if you are interested in getting into, the mortgage world, you certainly can. You need to get licensed." So I got my license. It was actually like my last semester of
Hmm.
college. I got, I started studying for the mortgage test, and I did get my license. And then I decided, I think this is what I want to do, get into the mortgage business. So right after school, I kind of made that decision. I didn't know if I was going to keep playing baseball. And there's a lot of, question marks, like what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And then I finally decided, like, you know what, this would be cool to, kind of follow in my
Pursue.
dad's footsteps.
Yeah,
So,
I love
yeah.
that. Was he, I guess, like your mentor in a way?
So my dad was very old school. He was definitely a mentor, but he really wanted me to kind of figure it out on my own. So, like, questions that I had and kind of strategies and different things he helped me with, but he was very much like, "I want you to kind of go out on your own and figure out this business on your own and decide if it's something that you want to continue to pursue or not." And I think that helped me because, you know, I didn't want to be looked at as like his junior,
Mm,
or, not have people take me
yeah.
seriously. So the fact that I was kind of doing it on my own, but also behind the scenes, kind of asking him, like, what do you think about this? What would you do if you were in my shoes right now? So that helped a lot. And then he had a partner, George, that was also, I would say he was a little bit more my mentor at the time
Okay.
than my pops was. Um, and they worked together. My dad sort of kind of groomed him into being a loan officer.
Yeah.
So he kind of, returned the favor and kind of helped me, start out and get my footing with everything. So
Okay. Yeah, no, that's great that you had that community of people that was already in the industry that could help you, and it wasn't just your dad and you did all the hard work on your
for
own. So I
sure.
think that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
And then during your time at James Madison University, you were a member of the baseball team, as you had just mentioned,
Hmm.
achieving notable successes such as winning a CAA conference championship
Yeah.
in 2011 and being named an all CAA conference player
Yes.
in 2012.
Hmm.
How have the discipline and teamwork from your athletic experiences influenced your professional career in mortgage lending?
Yeah. I think it's just like accountability with, sports. You have to be accountable to, how hard you work, and, y- you know, being successful in sports requires so much discipline, um, so much work, like behind the scenes. Especially me, I went to JMU. I was almost kind of like a project, with baseball. I wasn't a highly touted recruit or anything like that. So my whole career kind of required me to be really, pedal to the metal, like behind the scenes, like working on my craft and getting better. I always had the confidence, but once I got to JMU, it was just like a different level. it was a Division I baseball program and a lot of guys that were very good players. And I kind of figured out like, all right, if I'm going to play, I need to get better. I need to improve, and I need to, do extra work that was like required of me.
Yeah.
So I I think that translates a lot for business, like especially in real estate. Like, I don't have a boss or coach, really like telling me what to do. It's kind of really on my own. So I've always felt like I've been pretty good with like a self accountability. Um, and that came from, sports and learning that like work ethic and, like I said, kind of doing things behind the scenes to get better. And um, I think the other thing too is like with sports, confidence is such a huge factor. I'm not going to be a good athlete or a good loan officer if I'm not confident in what I'm doing. So that too, I think translates a lot. Just having confidence in your ability or, your profession. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Love it. And then, given your background in education, how do you approach educating clients about the mortgage process to ensure they make informed decisions?
Yeah. I work with a lot of first time home buyers. So I don't mind kind of going from start to finish on like how everything works. It's kind of similar to when you're teaching
Yep.
a kid or, a young student with, patience and kind of showing them everything along the way. So, um, like I said, like I think the patience piece of it has really helped. And the fact that I work with a lot of buyers that really have no idea what any of this means or what, how anything works. I like, kind of showing them from beginning to the end, like
Yeah.
every, fee, how this fee works, how this program works for you, how we qualify you, um, like credit score, if I can help them get their credit up or, different strategies just to help them save some money.
Yeah.
So
What's some advice you could give to people about how to get their credit score up? And are there some do's or don'ts to do? Share that with us.
yeah, so I think the biggest thing is credit card debt. I think that, from what I've seen, can really kind of fluctuate credit scores. And it's really just keeping your balance as low as possible on those credit cards. If you have a credit card and it has like a $30,000 limit and you're kind of just pushing it all the way to the top each month and paying it down a little bit, it's going to have a negative effect on your score. When I do like rapid rescores for customers,
What's that?
a
Sorry.
rapid rescore is getting your credit score up within
Mhm.
like a couple days.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And a lot of it is just paying down credit card debt. So, um, you know, I think, managing credit card debt, revolving debt is what they call it, and, staying on top of it, paying it down as much as possible. Because if you let that kind of rack up, it can really hit your credit
Mm.
score. And the other piece is obviously, making sure you pay everything on time. Because if you have a late fee, it can really crush your credit
Mhm.
score. The other thing that I see quite often is collections. And sometimes, customers don't even know they have it, right? It can be like a Verizon bill that, you terminated your service and they charge you a fee that
Yeah.
you had no idea about and they just sent it to collection. So, there's strategies to get the collection removed. You have to obviously pay off the collection, but if you can get a letter from the creditor saying that it's paid and can be removed or can be deleted, we can get that off. And I see credit scores go up to like 100 points when you get the collections removed. So I always urge people like, hey, let me take a look at your credit, see if there's anything I can do to get it up, or see if it's in a good spot right now.
Yeah.
So
That's good to know because I'm sure a lot of people are hesitant to even go and talk to people because they're just like, nope, I don't qualify, or they don't even know where to start.
right, yeah, it's almost like they feel like they're wasting my time. But if anything, like I want to help you get into a game plan or a
To get you to your
situation.
dream home. Yeah.
Yeah, like I want to get you. Sure, it might not happen like right now, but as long as we're on the path and you know exactly what you need to do, I think that's valuable.
Absolutely. And as far as marketing goes, how are you approaching, I guess, using video content or maybe graphics or going to networking events to get the word out there about your business and the type of services that you provide?
Yeah, I've definitely increased my social media kind of video presence. I would say over the last like year and a half, I really, dove into that. I hadn't really done it before. Most of my stuff on like my social media was personal, and I didn't want to be the cringy like real estate guy that was posting like every day. But honestly, I feel like it, it it was like breaking the ice. Like once I did it and once I got comfortable with it, I wasn't posting videos like every day, but
Mm-hmm.
as long as I was staying consistent, like once a week, every couple weeks, kind of just putting my face out there, talking about, the mortgage world or whatever I was talking about, I felt like that's helped me with like my sphere. People that I don't talk to that much, but we're Facebook friends or Instagram friends, I get more messages and texts like, hey, we're thinking about this. What do you think?
Yeah.
Um,
Making those connections with people.
yeah. And it's also good because a lot of my real estate agent referral partners are my friends on Facebook and Instagram. So I'm also staying, top of mind for them. Um, so that's helped me. And I feel like once I dove into it, I've gotten a lot more comfortable with it. Um, but I would say marketing wise, I contact real estate agents like directly, and that's kind of how I built my business. It's
Okay.
like going directly to a real estate agent, whether it's meeting them organically or through friends. I've asked like peers in my sphere, like, hey, do you have a real estate agent that you could recommend that I could call
Mm-hmm.
and meet? And I just try to meet them, whether it's like coffee, lunch, and talk to them about their business, talk to them, see if, I can help them. And then just kind of routinely checking in on them, giving them value. I don't really love to just call an agent
Yeah.
and just say, hey, do you have any business for me? I like to make sure that I'm giving them like a piece of information that they can use for their buyers or sellers. Like,
Yeah.
hey, rates did this week. If anybody asks about interest rates, here's what's going on.
Yeah.
Hey, we just got a new product for first time buyers. The mortgage insurance is really cheap on this, or the down payment is 3%, or we have 100% financing. Whatever it is, I just like to constantly kind of give them
Updates.
updates and information that they can use. So,
And now, when you're giving them that information, how are you staying on top of the resources, new trends, new policies that are for always changing?
yeah. Um, I would say our company does a really good job of kind of, hey, here's what's going on. Like we do a month or a weekly Monday call with all of our loan officers, and we talk about kind of what's going on
Okay.
with changes, or hey, you know, um, here's the new loan limits for next year, or hey, they just changed this guideline, or here's a new product. So we're always helping each other out with like products and things that are changing. So I feel like we're always on top of it, just through our company.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then the mortgage industry is continually evolving, as I mentioned. What current trends are you observing, and how do they impact home buyers in the Fairfax area, in your opinion?
Um, yeah, I think this year's been pretty interesting to start. I think after the election, people thought that rates were gonna kind of dip down. And instead, I feel like right immediately after the election, they kind of peaked up a little bit, which was a little unexpected. But then, you know, February, March, the rates have actually been coming down a little bit.
Mm.
So it's just, we're in like a weird market right now where I feel like some things are sitting, some things are flying off the shelves. I think different agents can tell you a million different
Yeah.
things what's going on right now just based off like their open houses and their listings and what they're seeing. You're kind of hearing everything. Oh, we had two groups come by the open house, or we had 40, but only one person put an offer in, or we got 15 offers over the weekend. So it's interesting kind of where we're at in the market. I think right now with rates, what they're doing, and you know, some things that are sitting a little bit, it's a good spot to be, a buyer, because it's not like straight bedlam right now with the rates going down a little bit, and we're kind of in a spring, getting close to a spring market.
Hmm.
It just feels like there's still a lot of opportunity to get a home as like a first time buyer, as a VA customer, and you're not, having to waive everything. Some properties you may have to, but um, just with the way things are going right now, and it feels like it should be a lot crazier, but it's not. So I actually think it's a good opportunity right now to be a buyer.
You hear that?
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how the rest of the spring kind of
Unfolds.
unfolds, and yeah, the summer. I'm very, very intrigued with how things are going to go this year, and
Okay.
kind of the direction things are going to go.
We'll see.
Yeah.
You'll have to update us on
Yeah,
how it goes for you.
of course.
And then, as a lifelong resident of Centerville, Virginia, how does your connection to the local community influence your work at HSTM? Are there specific community initiatives or events that you and your team participate in?
Yeah, it's funny. Like, I grew up in Centerville, and I feel like I had a ton of friends from all different neighborhoods, just from, playing like travel sports. Um, I had friends that were at different high schools. Like, I had a lot of friends that went to Chantilly, a lot of friends
Yeah,
that went to Oakton. I played baseball with people that went to Centerville and Robinson. So I feel like I know a lot about the neighborhoods, just kind of driving to friends' houses and stuff, growing up. And um, I feel like that's helped me, especially when I want to make a connection with someone. I always ask people, like, "Oh, so where are you guys from? Like, are you from Northern Virginia?" Like, "Oh yeah, I grew up in Oakton. I went to Oakton High School." And no way. Okay, do you know this person? Do you know this person? I feel like that happens a lot to me
yeah,
when I get referrals. So I feel like that helps me make a connection with
for
someone,
sure.
just kind of knowing the area. And oh yeah, I used to go to lunch at blah blah blah, like right up the street
My best
from.
friend lived here.
Yeah, exactly. I remember going to this neighborhood all the time when I was a kid, just stuff like that. Um, and in terms of like going to community stuff, I mean, I don't necessarily go to anything specific to Centerville. I do go to like a lot of JMU stuff, like alumni stuff. But I do feel like I'm still like, I go to Westfield. That's where I went to high school. I go to Westfield like baseball games. I go to Westfield football games. One of my best friend coaches in Loudoun County, and so we go to his games. So I do kind of feel like I'm on the scene a little bit
Yeah,
still with,
especially the baseball scene.
yeah, like the high school stuff, which is cool. And a lot of coaches that coached me back in the day are still coaching, or they've moved around. So I feel like just knowing, that whole community and stuff has also helped
Yeah,
with business. And we've definitely like sponsored, like travel baseball teams, and a couple different high school teams. Home Savings has.
yeah.
So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Love it. And then, what key financial factors should potential home buyers evaluate before deciding to apply for a mortgage?
I think, like we talked about, credit score is going to be big. Have a lender look at your credit score, whether it's a qualifying credit score, or, hey, like, we don't know where our credit score is, but we think it's low. Can you help us get it up? Like, I think that is going to be kind of one of the biggest pieces, but also making sure you have consistent employment history,
Mm-hmm.
making sure that, if you're hourly or your commission, um, you have 2 years of consistent income that we can average, and do, a couple different things to make sure that you qualify. So um, I think employment history, credit, and then the last piece obviously is like making sure you're comfortable with what you have currently, like in
Mm.
your checking, savings, investments, retirement, and okay with closing costs, prepaids, down payment. So those are the big three.
Okay.
And I like talking to people about their budget, right? So like a monthly budget, what sales price gets us there, what down payment, here's what we should expect, total cash to close. So, those are important things that you need to figure out before you start looking at homes, because you don't want to
Just show up all unprepared.
exactly. Yeah, you don't want to fall in love with a house and then realize, ooh, I don't know about this mortgage payment.
Absolutely.
So you should talk to a lender first and get that all squared away. I'm going to let you know exactly what your price point is, and then you can sort of really start looking at
Go from
homes and figuring out what you want to buy.
Yeah. Is there anything that I have not touched on that perhaps you would like to share, whether it's about yourself, your business, the mortgage industry? You have the floor.
Yeah. We were talking about this the other day, and it was basically like, what advice would you give yourself, when you first started in the business? And we had like a long discussion, with my colleagues about it. And the one thing that like kept coming up was basically like, be personable. Like, don't be a robot when it comes to like talking to someone. And it's hard to do this, right? Like this goes back to what I was talking about, like with confidence. Like I'm sure when I first started, I was so nervous to talk to someone because I was brand new. And of course, this is something that you develop, you acquire it. But like, I wish I could go back in time and just kind of just relax. When I'm talking to someone, I want to make them feel like I'm not like this Wizard of Oz, like big bad mortgage lender. Like, like I want them to feel like they're comfortable talking to me, like I'm their friend. And we're having a conversation about finances, and some people that can be pretty intense, but as long as you're patient and you can come off a certain way with people, and it can be very intense, or you can be relaxed and kind of walk them through everything. And I just wish I kind of could go back in time and tell myself that, like, this doesn't need to be as intense as
you're making it or thinking.
So.
Well, I'm glad that you realize that now, because sometimes it could be much later in life. I know it would have been better earlier, but I'm glad that you have realized that about what you want your presence to be like with your clients, and you're working on it. So what better time than the present?
Yeah, exactly. And just making a connection with them. Like, when I talk to people now, I like to make any type of connection I can, like, talking about family or
baseball.
Or, where'd you go to school? So I try to make things so much more personable,
as opposed to business only.
Yeah, as opposed to, me just stamping you're approved or you're not approved.
Decline.
Exactly. Yeah, that's not the vibe I want to get. No. I want people to feel like I'm their guy, and they're getting like a VIP, experience for me.
I like that.
And also like they feel like they can call me anytime, whether it's questions about a mortgage or just personal. So that's kind of with the way I've kind of shaped my business the last couple of years. And it certainly wasn't like that at first. I wanted to be super,
by the book
and, just kind of churn and burn. And I've just slowly kind of realized like, that's not how you make like a connection with people. And people want to work with people they like. So
and you've learned that with experience. So that's great.
Yeah.
All right. My final question, I promise.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a quote, saying, or a mantra that has inspired you in any way?
Mm-hmm.
I know right now you're saying, I wish I had been more XYZ, but do you have something that resonated with you? Maybe your dad told you this, or your mom even.
Yeah. So my dad used to always say, it's a very simple saying, but he used to always say to me, and this was when I would play sports, because with baseball there's a lot of highs and lows to baseball. Like, playing, there's a lot of failure in that. And I used to be very hard on myself. And my dad used to always say, don't get too high, don't get too low. Stay even keel. You have a good game, stay even keel. You have a terrible game, stay even keel. You got way more games, way more at bats. Don't let, something small, impact you and continue to impact you. Understand that there's highs and lows to everything in life, and you just want to be consistent and, follow your routine.
Yeah.
So that resonates to me with mortgages too, because,
Those
not,
rates.
yeah, not right rates going up and down, but also just, it's not a perfect business. I'm going to have tough conversations with people. I'm going to have to tell my agents, hey, this person doesn't qualify, or, we can't do this, we can't do that. And it can be stressful. So, I try to stay as even keel as I can. It can be a very stressful job. It can also be so rewarding. You feel like you're on top of the world when you get someone to closing and they're so appreciative, and, that's great. But, understand, like, not every transaction is going to be like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just going to be difficult, more difficult paths for people. And then the other saying that I love is, if it is to be, it's up to me. So, like I was talking about with accountability, like,
Yep.
I'm my own business. So if I want to grow it, if I want it to get better, it's all up to me to do that. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. You gave us 2 pieces of wisdom nuggets there.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
of course.
And it was a pleasure having you on the podcast. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Anytime.